Introducing Instagram Teen Accounts, a new way to keep your teen safer as they grow, like making sure they always have their seatbelt on.
All right, buckle up. Good job.
New Instagram Teen Accounts, automatic protections for who can contact your teen and the content they can see.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1074, May 9th, 2023. 91 degrees on this day in 1987, and it was 27 degrees on this day in 1966. These records are brought to you, of course, by Aquacide, keeping your lakefront free of weeds and algae and crud for more than 60 years with a complete line of lake and control products made right there at White Bear Lake. The products are easy to use. They work quickly. Aquacide is registered with both the EPA and DNR, and the products are completely safe. Don't let weeds overtake your lake or pond this summer. The kids are going to get itchy to swim. You don't want them to be...
I hate my kids get itchy.
You don't want them to be itchy when they're swimming.
Right.
Call Aquacide today. They'll identify your weed problem, and your place will look great all summer long. Call Aquacide at 1-800-328-9350 or go to aquacide.com.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Soucheray.
You know that on the website now, is it town council only or for everybody? I would think it's for everybody. You can request a ruling on the website. Huh? I didn't know that.
Do you know why Rookie knew that? Because I mentioned it on the show.
Am I getting scan money?
Yeah, I mentioned it on the show yesterday.
Really?
Will you shut your mic off when you clear your throat?
Yeah, maybe it's not me.
I didn't clear my throat. I coughed.
Distinction.
Sorry.
Distinction.
Either
Well,
way.
in any event, here's a ruling.
You can do that on the website.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one, Joe. A few winters ago, I, like most GL'ers, finished snow blowing my driveway and went to help a neighbor. Upon finishing one neighbor's driveway, I noticed another neighbor trying to shovel their way out. Since it was a rather large snowfall, shoveling would have taken them a long time, so I went to help. This particular neighbor spoke little to no English, so I motioned that I could use the blower. He smiled and nodded, so I started a few swipes. When I went to do a pass on their sidewalk, I struck something that made the Christmas lights blink, then go dark. I stopped quickly and unwound the extension cord that was bound in the blower. I apologized profusely and felt terrible. I made a few quick passes and went home. That night, I wrestled with what should be done. I concluded I needed to buy them a new extension cord, and I did. I tried to catch them as they came home for a few days, but struck out. So eventually I put the extension cord on their garage door handle, knowing they would see it. I never did end up seeing them much afterwards and ended up moving early spring of that year. Ruling in question, was I obligated to buy them a new extension cord, or since it was an honest mistake made while trying to help, was I given a pass? Nathan from the glacial prairie of central Minnesota. I think, Nathan, you've answered your own ruling. I'm not sure the word is obligated, but you were compelled. And I think you did the right thing. Even though you're there out of the goodness of your heart, you replaced the extension cord, which I think was the appropriate thing to do. The appropriate thing to do.
I agree with you completely, but if he knew he was moving, You know, just,
Yeah, what the hell?
I'm moving anyway. What
I'm
the
leaving, so.
Locks are for honest people.
Yeah.
My wife went to Costco.
Bought a hot dog.
No. She legitimately. She paid with cash.
Charge
$120. It was $176 or 117. She paid with $120, $20 bill and a $100 bill. The guy starts giving her $86 worth of change, and she said, "This is not right." He said, "No, you gave me two $100 bills," and she said, "I think I gave you 120." And so he went back. He lifted up the till. Sure enough, there was a $100 bill and a 20 there. So she was right. So he was flustered. He gathered up, called the manager.
Was he?
Oh, he was able. He was okay.
Was he special?
He was not. He was pretty sound. Yeah. And so they called the manager over. He didn't say anything to my wife about, oh, my gosh, that's great. The manager came over, said, we'll have to get a copy of the receipt. We'll have to do this, do that for accuracy. She didn't say anything. She was rather to the point. The guy in line said, that was a really cool thing that you did, young lady. Nice going. She's walking out where you grab the receipt. The manager comes back over to her and says, I need to see a copy of that receipt and take a picture of it. She did. And then let my wife go.
Okay, I'm terribly confused.
Yeah.
She says she are the manager.
Yeah, she says she
Are you celebrating your wife's honesty?
No, because that's how she is. I'm shocked that nobody at Costco said, wow, ma'am, thank you for realizing that. It was a guy in line that said that was the right thing to do.
The other thing that confuses me is you had to go elsewhere to get a receipt that you just took place in back at some checkout line?
She had the manager had to have a copy of it. She needed to take a picture of it.
Yeah. I know how this works, oddly enough, as you guys may know, at that store, and they would need a copy of that receipt to put with the report that they're.
But
what report? Wasn't it all just straightened out? And she got $3
no,
change.
because they got there's a
the
paper
receipt,
trail.
What
first,
a bunch
one
of
receipt.
Sales
one
audit
receipt
needs-
was wrong.
Yeah,
One
sales
receipt was
audit
wrong,
needs
one
to
was
correct that.
Thank you, Rook. You're correct.
And I can't, John, as a former Costco employee, I can't imagine you would have acted like that. You would have said, wow, oh my gosh, thanks for catching that. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I would. And now I'm going to ask somebody I know who works at Costco how she would react because that is her business.
You know,
she's a loss prevention
react
person.
to what?
Well, say thank you. I mean,
The
you can't
honesty.
just
There
let
was
them walk out the
zero.
door.
She wasn't looking for praise. She was shocked that it wasn't. That it was just so
Noted.
clinical.
Noted. Should have been noted.
It wasn't thank you, ma'am. There was no thank you at all.
This story is very similar to the way the Crazy Bread story started.
Not really.
No,
It's not as funny, I can tell you that one.
2 dimes and 2 quarters.
Favor for a loyal GLer. Please make my day. Joe, on Monday, you guys mentioned Lionel Richie and that his voice is going. When Reaver said, does he have Roycey throat, I thought someone would do it, but nobody did. I know you don't like to take requests, but you could really make my day and have someone do Lionel Richie singing all night long with the Roycey throat. If anything, it will be a nice break from listening to that arrogant, know-it-all music snob commie Height.
Wow! Shots fired. Shots fired.
Taking out his vent like he usually does. Thanks, and always pushing back Jason from Inver Grove Heights. Who here could do Lionel Richie singing all night long with the Roycey throat?
Let me think. Is this in part of my contract? Well, my friends, the time has come. Raise the roof and let's have a little fun here. Throw away the work to be done. Let the music play on, play on, play on. Everybody sing, everybody dance. Lose yourself in some wild romance. You know why, Such? We're gonna party, cremamo, fiesta, forever. Come on, let's go sing along. I said, do it again. Let's go. We're gonna party.
What's the song?
Cremamo,
What about
fiesta, forever.
All night long.
Come on and sing along all night long.
You'd have asked, I could have played guitar, you know.
All night long. Hey, Katie, do that spin around move again there. All night long.
God.
Yes, sir, my friends.
Yes.
That was from my 1983 album, Can't Slow Down,
Thank you.
the B-side. Yes, sir.
Jason's on my list, just so he knows.
I think Jason was funning you.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Not down here.
John, we got into it yesterday, I thought, fairly civilly, and we both received very civil emails on this. My contention was that the Democrats are passing bills to make it easier to vote because they're recruiting more Democratic voters. And you, I think, naively, and I'm being serious, I think you naively said, well, why would they necessarily be Democratic voters?
No, I was trying to make.
Yeah, you said that. Why would they necessarily be Democratic
Here's the point.
voters?
The point I was trying to make was, why would we want to discourage eligible voters from voting? That's the point I was trying to make.
Well, I still think you're looking at it wrong. If I'm going to be wrong, fine. But right now, you're wrong and I'm right. And here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying.
Yes,
do you think the Democrats would be doing this for purposes of attracting Republican voters?
Absolutely not.
There's only one reason they're doing this.
Well,
they're recruiting new Democratic voters.
Yes, I understand that.
Well, then I don't think we have an argument.
Why don't the Republicans do that? Why don't they recruit?
They have an ideology where they're. Well, you raise an interesting point.
I?
Yes, you do, and I think it bears discussion. Republicans, let's just keep it to the state level.
Yeah.
Republicans are not nearly as aggressive as DFL'ers. Republicans are. They sit back and take too much for granted.
Yes.
DFL'ers are the ones who fill the Capitol Rotunda and bitch about things and get bills passed. And DFL'ers are the ones who march around and carry signs saying, give us more and more. Republicans don't have that mindset. They're not nearly on the attack like DFL'ers.
Use the wheel analogy. That one squeaky wheel, the Republicans are the other three silent wheels that don't.
When's the last time you saw Republican activists gather at the Capitol to protest, say, a family leave bill?
Oh, I was going to say something else.
They don't do it.
No, they don't.
So I'm trying to keep this in context. You said, why don't Republicans advance a bill encouraging young voting? Because they either don't know the rules of the game or they're choosing not to play. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't think they know the rules of the game.
Do you think there's a chance that they are writing off that segment of the voting public? And if so, why not address them instead of...
Well, that's another great way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, for example, when John Thompson was running, we went through this. The Republicans just wrote that off.
Yeah.
They didn't help. They didn't, well, they had a tough candidate there with John Strominger, but God bless him, he put his money where his mouth was. He had one sign.
He made himself a sign.
Had it in his own yard.
Right.
And that might be a poor example for this exercise.
Well, go to the governor's race.
Well,
then.
let me just stick to the trying to find an example for the exercise. I think Republicans have completely written off urban America. If not the urban Twin Cities.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Let's keep it here.
Say that again.
I said
Say that again. You think
Republicans have completely written off the urban metropolitan area of Minnesota.
Okay. To the point where Governor Walz didn't even campaign outside of the metro because he didn't need to, right? We saw it. He didn't debate. He didn't campaign. He went up to the one farm fest, was shouted down, and then said, nope, we're not doing anything outside of the metro. That's fact.
The Republicans are sitting on the curb, and they're getting passed by these fast cars that keep whizzing by. Those fast cars are DFL'ers who are, I hate to use this word, but they're extraordinarily proactive. They hustle. The only thing they're good at is this. They're not good at anything that's important in life. They don't make anything. They don't do anything. But they're really good at politics. They're really good at it.
You mean they're good at getting elected?
They're good at getting elected. They see where the population center is, and they go after them like a rabid dog. They are tough. They are aggressive. They're proactive. They'll do whatever they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this,
including changing the rules once they hold power.
Now, let me go back to the voting bill, which reinforces my contention. That's another example of them being proactive and making sure they're 5 steps ahead. They're thinking about new recruits for the party. Mm-hmm. They're thinking new recruits. That's all this bill is. These are the same people who would side with Mary Moriarty, who says a criminal at 15, 16, 17 doesn't have a developed brain. But these people think nothing of pre-registering that undeveloped brain to vote.
No, you hit on a great point.
I always do.
Thank you. But the Mary Moriarty point, they turned on her. Why? They saw the winds of
it might cost them votes.
They saw the winds of public opinion and they turned on her.
Yep.
And they said, "Oh boy, this is going to cost us. We got to do something here."
But generally speaking, the DFL'ers we have now passing as DFL'ers are Mysterians. They're not the DFL'ers of your father's life. These are not Democratic farmer laborists. These are socialists. These are social activists, and they are better at being activists than Republicans. And thus, this voting law will make it easy for you. We'll make mailing easier. We'll pre-register you the minute you get a driver's license. We'll register. I got news for you, John. They ain't doing this to get out a Republican vote. They're doing this to recruit.
That's not my argument at all. Not even a little.
Right.
I mean, that's, Well,
I'm not sure what is your argument?
My argument is, why would you want to not get every eligible voter registered to vote? That's all I ever have addressed with this. That's all I want. I want every American, if 100% voting. That's what I want.
I don't. If you're not interested, the hell with you. If you need to come, if I have to come to your house and take you by the hand to get you to vote, you weren't worth voting.
Well,
the hell with you. You're not keeping up. You are going to register people who have no bleeping idea why they got registered. None.
We're going to disagree on that, and we have in the past too.
Well, let's stick to what we agree on.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you agree with me that the Democrats are much better at this. Is the game they know?
Yeah. Well,
this is the Army or the Marine Corps office sitting outside.
They don't know business. They don't know finance. They don't know employment. They don't know anything. They know this game. And they use this game to bring about they're bringing about the mystery as fast as humanly possible because they are very good at this. And Republicans sit around and say, I wonder if we should push back. Yeah. I don't know what we should do.
Well, and John's point about finding a proper candidate is accurate. I mean, I think Jensen could have been one, but he just didn't. We said this yesterday. He made a lot of rookie mistakes.
Jensen made rookie mistakes that the people who know how to play the game were extremely ready to pounce on. Mm-hmm. Extremely ready to pounce on. Extremely ready to pounce on Matt Burke. These people are vicious. They're vicious. They're killers. They'll cut your throat. They know how to do this.
Well, we had a little off-camera thing yesterday, Chris and I, where we were talking about candidates, and he thinks it's exaggerated that
what is exaggerated?
That Republicans nominated, that they nominate people who are maybe a little too extreme or outside the mainstream.
Yeah.
And after I thought about it yesterday, I thought, boy, I don't think it's exaggerated at all. We talked about Mary Crockett. An election denier. They ran for Secretary of State.
I would not have nominated her.
Kim Crockett.
Kim Crockett. I would not have nominated her.
No. And
she wanted to come on the show, and I refused. I don't deal with election deniers. I don't have time.
I think that relates directly to what you said about not your father's Democratic Party.
Right.
It's also not your father's Republican Party, and that's the problem.
Right.
To me, in a nutshell, both these parties. What do you do? How do you get them?
The guy who ran against Lee Finke sounded like a plausible candidate.
Yes.
Perfect. I'd have voted for him in a minute.
He was abandoned. I don't know if he was abandoned. The Republicans never showed up.
Right.
Well, what's his name? Her name? Lee Finke.
Yeah.
Or Fink.
Fink.
Look how much money was raised by DFL organizations, etc. What, 90,000 did we say?
Well,
and the fellow who ran as a Republican had 10 grand or something like that.
Okay, but where does the blame stop with the Republican Party? Why aren't the party leaders making this happen?
I guess that's what we're talking about. What we're talking about is Republicans for too long have well, boy, I just had a brilliant thought.
Write it down.
I just had a
'Cause you're gonna
brilliant
forget it.
thought.
And underline it. So
I'm circling it,
its
and
importance.
I'm coming back with it. I'm coming back with it. First, I want to tell you that
A tease.
finally, last night, got the scooter out.
Really?
Cruised to a game, watched a kid get a walk.
Cruise back.
Figured I've seen enough. Got on the scooter and took off again.
See
and
you
it's
later.
my Yamaha scooter
Did his duty.
that's taken. It's an S-Max. It's taken care of by EcoFun Motorsports. Who else in Forest Lake? Where that's the electric bike capital of the world, by the way.
Yep.
And all the scooters that turn urban errands into adventures. It's that capital too. You can save a lot of money now. Spring sale at EcoFun Motorsports, youth recreational equipment, the Vanderhall USA Roadsters, the helmets, the apparel, the service, electric bikes, scooters, recreational equipment. It's one-stop shopping for all of that, and it's fantastic. And it's EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake. It's immediately west of the Interstate 35 on 97, a great big new facility that just opened last June of 2022. Fantastic. And a second outpost in Burnsville on the County Road of Life the Service Road of Life.
That's right.
Near County Road 42. EcoFunMotorsports.com.
Using Seafoam motor treatment in your fuel gives you one less thing to worry about this summer. A lot of people might not realize that most preventable engine problems start right in the fuel system. Seafoam cleans harmful gum and varnish from the entire fuel system. That helps your engine run better, start faster, and last a lot longer. Seafoam works that same magic on all of your engines, no matter what kind it is. Seafoam is the ticket. You can find it everywhere, and the true believers, we keep an extra can in the car. Truly a wonderful product in a world of bad gas. Seafoam.
The ghost of... Oh, yeah.
This guy wears many hats.
Sorry, John.
Just not indoors. Joe Souchere.
Hey, GLers, you will get a full report at the end of this award-nominated Garage Logic podcast, but you should stick around because you will get the Tuesday report from our guy, Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk. And if you are interested in his financial services, give him a call today. 952-925-5608. No obligation. 48-minute financial consultation. 952-925-5608. Boy, Josh was all fired up today talking about Janet Yellen and raising the debt ceiling. Tune in for that later in the program today. Joe?
Okay, I had a deep thought. The question, it was either John or Rook. I think it was Rook. You said, why don't the Republicans do this? This being what?
Put together a grassroots campaign to register like-minded voters for them.
Okay, I have an answer. I have a deep thought.
Or sit back and take. Why do they sit back and take it?
Let's just have a class lecture here. For the most part, if not all, independent Republicans in Minnesota are not Mysterians. Could we?
For the most part.
Could we agree on that?
For the most part, sure.
They're not Mysterians. They like the country.
Yep.
They like the United States. They like the idea of a family having some dough in their pocket to go buy a car or a boat. They like parents involved with their children. They like the things that are conventional and traditional in America. They like the Constitution. Mm-hmm. While they could be, of course, capable of acknowledging that the country had its flaws, they also would be the ones to say, what other country in the world has done more to remedy its supposedly flawed past? Mm-hmm. They love the country.
Yep.
Now, so what they're resting on are those ideas. Those are ideas. The idea of America is pleasing to them. They would just as soon succeed based on ideas.
Okay.
Now you put them up against Mysterians. They don't like the country. They don't like necessarily mom and dad having extra money to buy a boat or a car because they believe that might lead to climate change.
Okay.
They don't like. They like the idea of children being proselytized to in school. They would just as soon acknowledge that public education is more of a parenting tool than actual parents. They have tremendous changes they want to bring about that are driven by the stark difference between them and the independent Republicans. And that is, they don't like the country. So think of all the things they're motivated to change. And just think of all the things that have been changed in this legislative session because of their hustle, their persistence, their discipline, their strength, their ability to call their like-minded constituents to action. Let's tear this down and rebuild it the way we want it. And they're doing that. Where the Republicans don't do it because they're completely satisfied with the ideas that built America in the first place. They're not Mysterians.
I understand that, but
I didn't know it was going to be this good today.
Yeah, I didn't either. But what I don't understand is the squeaky wheelers are changing so much, and the Republicans, even though they love this country, are being bent over and screwed.
Well, that's an uncharitable analogy. Let me put it this way.
I think what you're trying to say, Rick, is they're refusing to adapt to the common practice
or fight it. Yes.
They're behind the times.
Yeah.
The times meaning the way the game is played. The DFL'er is changing the way the game is played because they're Mysterians. They want to bring about great change, none of which we happen to like. And we don't have voices in the legislature. Well, we do, but they're outnumbered.
Right. Significantly.
And they're also not as aggressive and proactive. Don't foghorn that anymore. They're not. They're not adapting. They haven't adapted. There's a million analogies. Newspapers didn't adapt. They've disappeared.
The music industry refused to initially.
Detroit has hung on, but only by the skin of their teeth because they didn't adapt in the 70s. Japan was kicking their ass. Poor quality came out of Detroit. That's all been remedied. They will survive. They fix themselves. Not without great taxpayer help, but they fix themselves. What you see now is you have legislators that are successfully bringing about change because they have a great movement behind them, which is a movement they've encouraged and created. The Republicans have no movement. No movement to reinforce the idea that there's nothing wrong with America. Now, where the Republicans can triumph, if we're to be saved, if America is to be saved from the mystery, it will be Republicans gathering great forces to prove to the Mysterians that what they brought about is wrong. For example, if the Family Leave Act does in fact result in hundreds of small businesses closing and people losing their jobs, those people will be susceptible to conversion by the Republicans if they're not already Republicans. Yes?
But I'm going to disagree with you there. Because what we saw during COVID lockdowns, we saw a number of businesses suffering because of that, a lot of which didn't make it. That still didn't affect the way that people voted in the last election cycle.
Well, I guess I don't know how to answer that, except I think people might have thought that, well, that was temporary. That was temporary. The Family Leave Act creates a new government bureaucracy. It brings on board hundreds of new government employees. It brings on board new taxes for employees and employers. And it could very well prove to be wrong. what else could prove to be wrong, and the Republicans will need to figure out how to rally the troops. The Republicans will have to get ahead of the idea that, look, Minnesota, these Mysterians kept $17.8 billion of your surplus. And do you realize that now means we have to come up with an additional $17.8 billion every 2 years? That wasn't there 2 years ago. We have to create that in taxes. Do you really want that tax burden, Mr. and Mrs. Minnesota?
But what if the ultimate shell game is in full force, which we're seeing it happen right now? We saw the IRS data that we cited on this show, a week or two ago, about the number of people that are, in fact, choosing to leave the state. What if that's all part of the plan, meaning the only people that are going to be left to vote are the ones that are going to be staunch in voting for the Democratic Party?
Part of what plan? What plan?
The plan that we're seeing unveiled before our very eyes the last 5 months of this.
Well, how does it benefit them?
They stay in power.
Right, but they won't have any money.
They'll have plenty for a while.
For a while. Socialism works till you run out of other people's money.
And then you'll get bailed out federally and you'll be fine. You'll still be in power.
And socialism won't work at the federal level because you'll run out of other people's money.
Go ahead, Rick. No, I was just going to say that argument. Yeah, I agree, but the government unfortunately bails out both sides. Look at banks, etc.
Right. Yep. You're right. You're right.
And I'm going to live and die with this idea that I agree with what you were saying, Joe, completely. But I think right now the two sides that are controlling America are the extremes on both sides, and the middle just sucks air because not everybody buys into the complete right or left ideas.
That's why I'm keeping this. I'm trying to keep this to the state level.
Yeah, I mean, there's people in between who like some of the ideas. They don't like some of the ideas, but their voices are not heard.
I think Minnesota is burdened by extreme left-wing ideology. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's burdened by extreme right-wing ideology.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But aren't there, the University of St. Thomas Business School, aren't they churning out Republicans left and right?
They're a failed academy. They are as failed as any other academy.
I had two kids. My two oldest were involved youth and government stuff.
You're going to find a kid from a home like yours where the kid's going to think for himself and not buy the BS. But that's rare. That's rare. Minnesota is not burdened by, and I'd hate to think that in order for the Republicans to get in the game and play it the way it's being played, they'd have to develop right-wing ideologues, because then we still lose. You don't get anywhere then. Then you got right-wing extremists fighting left-wing extremists. In Minnesota, what has happened is the left-wing radicalized extremists have won. They've taken over. They're pushing through everything they want. And because the independent Republicans do not have right-wing ideologue extremists in their camp, they've been kind of left behind. Not kind of. They've been left behind. They don't know how to fight this war. They don't know how to fight this game.
Well, what's the next peg on the square?
Well, as I said, what I'm clinging to is that you'll get some articulate independent Republicans who will point out in ways that can be understood why the direction the left-wing ideologues are taking us will not work in the long run. It can't work unless you want a completely different country, unless you want the mystery. If you want misery shared equally, you're on that road. You're on that road.
Why?
I unfortunately don't think you're ever going to change Minnesota. And I realize you want to keep it at the local level, but I think it's where it's at, because if people can't see what's going on this year, they're never going to see what's going on.
So you don't think, Johnny, that there's some secret pockets of Somali Republicans around that are just kind of hiding out and biding their time? I wish that was the case.
Well, the good thing to keep in mind, though, when it comes to voting and voter turnout and elections and campaigning is, the next 18 or so months should really, really be a nice civil form of.
President Harris.
The
Good afternoon.
independent Republicans in Minnesota like the ideas of this country. They like them. They like this country. The radical leftists who run the state not only don't like the idea of this country, they're changing it before your very eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They are succeeding in changing it. Why? Because they are really good at getting what they want. They are really good at it.
No matter
They're-
what type of destruction they create.
That's right. They're abrasive, they're foul, they're loud, they're active, they're involved, they're everything.
Intimidating.
They're everything the independent Republicans are not. Everything.
Go ahead, John.
Let me ask you though. See, here's the problem I'm having with politicians in general. I can think of one Republican right now who makes headlines in Minnesota, and he's abrasive and loud, and I disagree with him a lot. But he's the only one who's really making any headlines.
I
That would be
can't.
Walter Hudson.
Walter Hudson. I don't even think he's abrasive. I think he's just common sense.
I don't. Well, okay, I don't. Tucker Carlson proved January 6th wasn't a riot. That was one of his tweets.
I don't. I don't follow his tweets.
Medical doctors, remember that one? Medical doctors are the same as plantation owners. Because
I don't remember that. I don't do tweet. I tweet occasionally, and that's
it's
it.
probably best then that you don't. But he is the firebrand right now for the Republican Party. So is that the way to go or not? I don't know.
Kendall was the way to go. Kendall was the one preaching the love of country and the love of ideas, none of which would have excluded anybody on the left.
And we have somebody that we've talked to many times who was vehemently opposed to Kendall. The Reverend.
Oh, I don't know what.
What do you do? I mean, how do you do this?
But you can't throw. That's we're falling into their trap. We're saying you have to be this way. You cited it earlier, John, when you said the 80% of us in the middle like some ideas, don't like some ideas. That's good, that's bad. We don't have to be all in.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Getting back to the question from yesterday, I just want to acknowledge the emailers. Rich Grossong from Edmond, Oklahoma, sent charts and graphs that he looked up from midterm election results proving the young people voting Democratic. Downing went to Tufts University to find out how young people voted, and they did not vote for Republicans.
I don't think any of us had to go do research on that.
Yeah,
everybody knew.
Yeah, so let's.
Thanks, Johnny.
One email from a Garage Logic Town Council member on this very subject.
Yeah.
Brian Matura. Republicans are like ticks, no ambition.
It seems that way right now.
Let's see if I can, and not that it's important that we always agree, but it might be fun just for an aspect of this to have some consensus. Are we in agreement that what's passing for a DFL'er now is really a different cat than, say, 50 years ago?
No question.
100%.
Not even close,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Are we in agreement? And I would argue with you, with the exception of the Walter Hudsons of the world, I would argue that the independent Republicans are what they were about 50 years ago.
Locally, yes.
Okay.
Nationally, I would argue completely.
We're not nationally. We're locally now. Okay,
Locally,
so we're in agreement there. Are we in agreement that the DFL'ers, passing themselves off as DFL'ers, are really, really good at playing an essentially fairly new political game?
Yes.
They're better at it than independent Republicans. Are we in agreement there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then
yes.
the task for independent Republicans is to decide how you want to play the game and what you're going to do about it. That's what they have to do.
And the problem is they don't have the people in place. Look at what we had.
Because the people they have in place have been too content with the idea that the ideas of America would always triumph, that the ideas of America would always succeed. And what the socialists now running us are proving is that they're successful in eliminating those ideas of America. And I think the independent Republicans are in a state of great puzzlement. They're puzzled. What the hell do we do? Because you don't want them to come out and start agreeing that the ideas of America are not the answer.
But that's
they're
why
the answer.
We need the likes of Representative O'Neill to continue to ask a lot of questions. And at least
there's a woman in there fighting the good fight.
And she's trying to at least say, okay, I'm reaching across the line here to try to find a reasonable conclusion
and
without shouting.
Walls, part of their war plan is that they lie. Now, all politicians lie, but the socialists are really good liars, too. Because Walls swore, I'm not signing anything that wasn't bipartisan. Well, he signed everything you put in front of his face.
Right.
And they're not bipartisan.
And they've all been, 34, 33.
Right.
Democrats to
And
Republicans.
he's not, so he's lying. That's another good thing they're good at. They lie. Now they all lie, but they lie as part of their platform. Their lying is one of their tools. And it works for them.
Yes, it does.
Would it do any good to hammer him on that? Yes. I
We
mean,
do.
Who's going to, though,
And
John?
what answer? He'll go on CCO and talk about butterflies. Who are you kidding?
I was going to say, whoever's interviewing him about butterflies should say, hey, remember, Gov,
There's
when
no
you
one
said...
in place on conventional Twin Cities radio to do it.
And he knows, he's smart enough to know, at least his people are smart enough to know, well, we're not putting him on with Souchere.
Well, rookie, you chased him around the ferry, wouldn't come on.
I chased him onto a Sun Country airline plane, and he said he was going to.
He's not coming on here.
Did he ask for extra peanuts?
Part of what they know in playing the game is they're not going to go on with someone that would disagree with them.
Right.
I'm not giving up.
What if he offered him meat?
I would offer him meat, but would
Hey,
do you want to waste meat from Grunhofer's on the governor
to get him on the show? Yes. How about a double smoked ham, Governor, to come on with Souchere?
He looks like he could eat it.
All right, you got to bring your own meat.
Got to bring your meat, double smoked bacon, the 140 flavors of brats, Minnesota beef grown by Minnesota farmers, rookie burgers, town ball meatloaf. It's grilling season, GL'ers. We are we're ramping up to it.
Ramping.
Normal people are. GL'ers have been grilling for a long time, and Grunhofer's is your destination. It's a meat emporium for absolutely every kind of. And you know what? More and more I read that meat's good for you. It's not, we get sold.
You need to eat a lot of protein.
You gotta
That's
have
a good
meat.
part of your diet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So why not eat the best?
Oh, a steak, a nice fillet,
They got
properly seared and baked.
Oh,
I can just see the butter knife cutting right through it.
They got them now at Grunhofer's. It's Grunhofer's Old Fashioned Meats. It's the best. They're in Hugo, just at the north end of Hugo on Highway 61. And they're in Forest Lake on Highway 97, east of Interstate 35. Do yourself a treat. Get ready for the weekend. Get ready for midweek, wherever you want to grill. Go to Grunhofer's Old Fashioned Meats.
K&L Surplus and Ammo is your one-stop shop for all firearms-related products for over 25 years. Why? Pricing. K&L Surplus and Ammo offers some of the best prices in the region. You might find a good sale at a big box store, but K&L always has great pricing. And unlike a lot of other stores, K&L always includes tax in the listed price. K&L Surplus and Ammo is veteran-owned and offers first responder and veteran discounts. K&L is also committed to safety and a licensed FFL retailer. Find out for yourself why K&L Surplus and Ammo has been the choice of gun owners for over 25 years. KLGunstore.com.
It's true. Some of us GLers fairly obsessive about our lawns. If you want the best lawn on the block, you've got to go with ProfessionalTurf.com, a Minnesota lawn care company since 1982. ProTurf has service techs with over 20 years of, I almost said 70, 20 years of experience that have been servicing the same route. So they get to know your lawn. When I lived in South Minneapolis, I got to tell you, my lawn was ProTurf's problem, but ProTurf has this really cool toot sweet policy, meaning if you see something janky on your lawn in the middle of the season, get a hold of them and they'll be out Toot Sweet, and they'll take care of that. They'll rectify it for you. That's what they do. Schedule a free in-person lawn care analysis and estimate right now at professionalturf.com. A Pro Turf Tech will come out once the snow has melted and then customize a slow-release fertilizer and weed control program. Safe and environmentally guaranteed. You'll get a great lawn. Just click away, professionalturf.com.
Let's go.
Joe, do you like a nice crazy bread?
Will you hit the thing?
The thing.
Truth, justice, and the suture.
Here's John Heidt.
Why, thank you, Joe. This news update, when I get to it in just a moment, brought to you by professionalturf.com. Already has my lawn looking very nice.
Has your lawn been cut yet?
Yeah, I cut it over the weekend, actually.
Wow, ours hasn't been cut yet.
Yes.
I am not cut yet.
I could. Yikes. Okay, I'm just going to move along to the news now.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. A sports note before I continue. Former Vikings quarterback Joe Kapp has apparently died.
Oh.
San Francisco Chronicle reporting Kapp's son wrote in an email his father died after a 15-year battle with dementia. Kapp, who played for the Vikings starting in 1967, helped lead the team to a Super Bowl appearance in 1970. Kapp was 85 years old.
40 for 60, baby.
Was he a good guy to cover?
That, as old as I am, he was still before my time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
I forget, did they win that Super Bowl?
See,
no,
you
they did
only
not.
did that
They
story
did
to
not.
get that cheap shot in, didn't you?
No, I have always had admiration for Joe Kapp.
Do you guys remember,
pretty
didn't
hardcore.
Joe, wasn't he at a banquet or a function something within the last 10 years? And wasn't there a dust-up at that?
Yes, I don't remember.
Do you remember this? Okay, yeah, I thought that
I
was.
I
do
wonder if
remember.
the family is interested in having his brain looked at. Because he took a few hits.
Well, he had, what did you say, dementia for the last 15 years?
15 years, yeah. In news, the Senate did pass legislation here in Minnesota to create a statewide paid family and medical leave policy yesterday. That moves it one step closer to the governor's desk. The bill, which was passed by the House last week, would allow workers up to 12 weeks of paid family leave and up to 12 more weeks of paid medical leave. It passed the Senate on a party line 34-33 vote. Well, that means he'll veto it, right?
Hey,
Party line
Walls, you
vote?
said you wouldn't sign anything that wasn't bipartisan.
Yeah. All Republican senators oppose the measure. There are some differences between the House and Senate versions. They'll need to be reconciled in a conference committee before the legislature votes on a final version. Supporters say the bill would allow Minnesotans to take care of themselves or family members without having to sacrifice a paycheck. Opponents say the program would create too large of a cost and burden for small businesses in Minnesota.
Okay, I rest my case. Look at the front page photograph of the Star Tribune.
I don't have it in front of me.
Top. Minnesota AFL-CIO organizer Haley Hilton led a rally for paid family leave Monday at the state capitol. Above, Naya Bang Diang with New Republica voiced her support for the bill, which passed the Senate. Two photos of activists crowding into the Capitol while small business owners were out working.
Right. That's the difference.
They know what they're doing.
And what did they get? Front page coverage in the newspaper.
Rest my case.
There was a spokesperson from, I believe it was the Stillwater School District yesterday, saying that the paid family leave will greatly impact education budgets in the state of Minnesota.
Well, I'm sure we have to increase them, don't we?
Well, I'm saying that's probably what's next.
Why? Because teachers will use it, you mean?
Well, think of how many different employees all of these various schools have and how that's going to impact.
Well, they're a little top-heavy in administration. Can some of those morons?
Okay, I don't think that's going to happen. I found the story, Johnny. Joe Kapp, this was 2011, apparently almost got into a brawl with former CFL star and pro wrestler by the name of Angelo Mosca at a function in Vancouver. So there you go.
Well, maybe Joe shouldn't have been going to events if he was suffering from dementia.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Funeral arrangements for that Wisconsin deputy shot and killed on duty will be announced this afternoon. 29-year-old Deputy Katie Lysing was responding to reports of a driver in the ditch near Glenwood City, Wisconsin, shot and killed by 34-year-old Jeremiah Johnson, who later took his own life. Lysing leaves behind a wife and an infant son, and we've now learned more about Johnson, too. He was on supervised release following a years-long prison stint after pleading guilty in 2015 to 2 felonies, kidnapping and criminal sexual conduct. Johnson, formerly of Stillwater, had moved to Shakopee within the past year. His criminal record is dotted with petty misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, traffic violations, a DWI when he refused to submit to a sobriety test, giving officers a false name, and violation of a no-contact order in a domestic abuse case. Molly Bruner, director of Scott County Community Corrections, said Johnson had been in compliance with his conditions of supervised release, which included attending chemical dependency and sex offender programming and treatment.
Another case of this guy should have not been out.
Star Tribune reporting one man was killed, another injured when they ran a red light early Tuesday on a stolen motorcycle and hit an SUV at a well-traveled Minneapolis intersection. It happened about 1:45 this morning at 26th Street in South Hiawatha. The stolen motorcycle was heading west, went through a red light, struck an SUV in the intersection, according to police. A man in his 40s on the motorcycle died at the scene. A man in his 30s riding with him taken by emergency responders to HCMC with what the report says are injuries of unknown severity. The SUV driver was not hurt. Identities of the injured men and the SUV driver have yet to be released. St. Cloud State University campus alert system, by accident, erroneously, sent out a message warning people of an active shooter last night.
Oh, my God.
Whoops.
An email alerting people of a suspicious person was sent to university students, faculty, and staff at 10:45 p.m., along with a text message warning people of an active shooter. Screenshots show the text advising recipients to run, hide, fight.
Where do you run to if you don't know?
Updated alert telling folks to disregard the previous message was sent about 5 minutes after. That message included information on a reported suspicious person and advised people to stay inside. An email with updated info sent out at 11:20 said the suspicious person was in custody. St. Cloud police made contact with the person who was taken to the hospital without incident. No crime was committed, according to officials. The university officials released a statement this morning saying there was a suspicious person on campus, not an active shooter.
That's a horrible. That's unfortunate. But you know how my brain works.
I don't. That's what I'm puzzled by. I don't know how it works. That's what keeps me up at night.
Right, yeah.
How many? Not saying that I would have done this in any means, attending Mankato, but how many young male St. Cloud students might have said, "Honey, we better hide down. This could be it.
This could be the last one."
Oh, I see.
The old canning apricots.
I see what you're saying.
Could be my last.
Let me protect you. Why
don't you come to my dorm?
Yeah, I'll take care of you.
We'll hunker down here.
Sure.
Apparently, all it took for one Minneapolis City Council member was to see it with his own eyes. Council member Jason Chavez says steps need to be taken immediately to address safety at a troubled light rail section where he saw a man get shot.
We must do something about this.
Wow, is it 2018?
Yeah.
Chavez, who represents the city's 9th Ward, made the call for action after he witnessed a shooting at about 10:30 Saturday night on Lake Street Midtown Station that left a man in critical condition. No arrests have been made, but police have what they say is a pretty good idea who fired the shots on the street level on the south side of the station. The incident shook Chavez after he saw it. In a Facebook posting, he wrote, "I'm still triggered from hearing these gunshots and seeing a person drop to the ground." Chavez went on to say that shootings, along with drug use, overdoses, deteriorating infrastructure, and accumulation of debris have become commonplace at the station. He said his office has been working with Metro Transit, Hennepin County, state and local officials, and community partners on finding additional solutions. Chavez said in his Facebook posting, "I acknowledge we need to act with more urgency. The reality is we need to move dollars into these areas now. I'm committed to finding and shifting dollars immediately within the city to address this. South Minneapolis residents
I'd require all public officials to commute only by light rail. They would not be allowed to commute any other way.
That's not bad. Is this somewhat of a, well, not ray of hope's probably too strong, but his eyes are opened? I mean, you're talking about what you're saying.
No, the first thing this guy said is we need more money. He doesn't get it either. But yeah, he gets it. He's a Mysterian.
That wraps up our local portion of the news. Why don't we take a small break and talk to our buddy, the rookie, before we get to the rest of the news?
It sounds like a really good plan, and I want to tell you right now that Welter Heating does a great job, not only with their performance, but when you want to pay the bill. What did I do today? Today I got up. I had to pay the bill. Called 612-825-6867. I talked to the young lady that answered the phone right away and said, I need to pay my bill. Can I give you my credit card? Yep. Bingo, bango, bongo. The balance due is zero. It's just that. It's so easy. It's so easy. And it's easy to make an appointment, too. You go to their website, welterheating.com, hit request now, and you'll get a quote online. Also, they're just giving this away, too. I told Rick, you can't just give this away. There's a Q&A. If you have problems or you have questions, they actually tell you what the answer is or what the easy fix is or what you need to do. So there's there's maintenance tips. There's all sorts of how they replace stuff, how they install things. You can learn so much by their website, welterheating.com. Call them or visit them online, welterheating.com. Tell them you heard it from the rookie. For all your heating, cooling, and air purification needs, it's Welter Heating at welterheating.com.
Tri-State Bobcat in Burnsville, Little Canada, and Hudson has the best sale prices of the year on a couple of amazing Toro snowblowers. The big spring sale is on the Toro single-stage Power Clear snowblower and the Power Max two-stage snowblower, and you won't find a better deal than right now. And whether you opt for the single-stage Power Clear or the two-stage Power Max, you'll look forward to the next snowfall with these amazing Toro snowblowers. Tri-State Bobcat is in Burnsville, Little Canada, and Hudson, and on the web, tristatebobcat.com.
Latte schmate. Here's Joe Souchere.
You know, when I want to sit down and watch a film from 1984, I want a nice cool glass of water. From Hofferman Water, Joe. They're an independent water treatment dealer, and they're busy this time of the year, so now's the time to get on the schedule. Hofferman offers sales, service, and rental options for Kinetico water treatment systems. That can include a water softener, maybe an iron rust or an odor filtration system, or a brand new drinking water system. A new system from Kinetico is going to do so many things that other water softeners just simply can't do. It's going to drastically cut down on your salt usage, but it's also going to protect your appliances. So get on that schedule today and have somebody come out and test your water at your home. 952-894-4040. That's 952-894-4040, or visit their website, HoffermanWater.com, and you can see everything that they have on their website. Hofferman Water has been proudly serving the state of Minnesota for over 50 years. Please tell them you heard about them here on the Garage Logic podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Reavers. It's lovely pacing, by the way. In other news...
Why are you so nice to me? Are you going to rip me after the show?
No.
Oh, okay.
I love you, Chris. You know that.
I love you too, John.
Russia set out just one old tank and some armored personnel carriers for its Victory Day parade on Moscow's Red Square today as Vladimir Putin's depleted military continues to suffer losses in Ukraine. In his speech, watched by scores of uniformed soldiers, military officials, and leaders of former Soviet nations, Putin claimed that Russia wants peace while accusing the Western elite of waging a real war against his invading troops. With snipers watching the crowd closely, he welcomed soldiers fighting in Ukraine who were present at the parade and framed his ongoing illegal invasion as being the same as the Soviet fight against Nazi Germany in World War II.
Not really.
Dozens of military vehicles, including armored personnel carriers, trucks, and intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, rolled through the city. However, there was only one tank on display. Usually, there's a lot of tanks in this parade. Well, the only model today that appeared in the parade was a T-34, which Russia used in World War II.
Yep, she barely made it through the route.
Jeez.
There were no military aircraft flying over Red Square. They usually do when all of this goes on display. The first time in years, the parade ended in under an hour.
It's like Melvin Carter without any fireworks for St. Paul.
The pared down celebrations came after ambiguous official reports last week that 2 Ukrainian drones flew into the heart of Moscow, reached the Kremlin before being shot down. The Kremlin billed it as an attempt on Putin's life. Ukraine denied any involvement. A social media page appearing to belong to that gunman who killed 8 people at a Dallas area outlet mall has shared extremist beliefs with rants against Jews, women, and racial minorities posted since September, as well as posts about struggling with mental health. 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia maintained a profile on the Russian social networking platform OK.ru, including posts referring to extremist online forums such as 4chan and content from white nationalists, including Nick Fuentes, the anti-Semitic white nationalist provocateur from the U.S. He also posted photos of a flak vest emblazoned with patches, one of them with the initialism for right-wing death squad. Another post included a series of shirtless pictures with visible white power tattoos, including SS lightning bolts and a swastika. Authorities have not revealed the motive for the shooting. They say they're still investigating. Senior law enforcement source said the gunman's social media site is part of that investigation. Latest sentencing in the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol has ended with a former Navy reservist who had a top security clearance sentenced to 4 years in prison yesterday on felony and misdemeanor charges stemming from the Capitol riot. Hatchet Speed of Vienna, Virginia, worked for a defense contractor on January 6th, 2021. He was sentenced in Washington, D.C. for obstructing Congress's certifications of the 2020 presidential election results.
And the guy's name was Hatchet Speed.
Hatchet Speed, that's correct.
Pretty cool name.
Researchers have discovered that an AI tool can identify individuals at high risk for pancreatic cancer up to 3 years before it can be diagnosed. According to the research published in the journal Nature Medicine, the diagnosis is based solely on the patient's medical records. Pancreatic cancer is one of the most lethal forms of cancer, and this discovery offers hope of earlier diagnosis and, therefore, better chances of survival. As of right now, pancreatic cancer is difficult to diagnose early on, leading to a low survival rate. Without any population-based tools to screen for pancreatic cancer, only individuals with a family history of the disease or certain genetic mutations are screened. This approach leaves out cases that fall outside those categories.
Okay, I got a question. Can you live without a pancreas?
No. Because it processes all the
stuff.
Yeah, the fat and stuff like that.
Because if you can spot it 3 years ahead of time and you could remove it, bing, bang, boom. But I guess you can't just live without one.
Those of you that are heeding my medical advice, I am not a licensed doctor.
Right.
I just pulled that out of nowhere.
According to utswmed.org, given the importance of the pancreas as an organ, you might think living without one is impossible, like trying to live without a heart. But you can, in fact, live without a pancreas. This is an article dated November 30th of 2016.
There you are. Take that sucker out.
Well, I wonder
Because
why
you don't beat pancreatic cancer.
No, but that's the next medical breakthrough. Let's start working on the pancreas.
Thanks to advancements in medicine and the technology with which to administer it, we can now more effectively than ever reproduce what the pancreas does when it becomes necessary to remove all or part of the organ because of pancreatic cancer or other pancreatic diseases.
Cool.
Well, this was a ray of hope. That news item was a ray of hope.
Okay.
Yes, it was. And AI being used for something good, not for something bad.
Right.
A foreign object came crashing through the roof of a home in New Jersey. It happened at a home located in Hopewell Township in Mercer County. Police say the object hit the roof, went onto a hardwood floor of the residence, measured at 4 inches by 6 inches. It's believed to be a meteorite. Hopewell Township police think the possible meteorite could have been related to the recent Eta Aquarids meteor shower. The ranch-style home was occupied at the time of the incident. Luckily, no injuries reported. Officials have contacted several agencies to help positively identify the object. The investigation is ongoing. Police allege... I'm glad Kenny's not here for this one. Police allege a sleeping hotel guest in Nashville, Tennessee, woke up to find the night manager sucking on his toes.
Oh, my God.
Wow. His own toes or his toes?
The guest.
The guest's toes.
Wow.
The manager was sucking on,
Hope you wake up and say, hey, I'm into that.
Kenny would have said you pay extra for that.
52-year-old David Neal is the suspect. The manager, I said that wrong. He's not the suspect. David Neal, 52, the manager of the Hilton Nashville downtown, he is the suspect. Oh, my God. Has now been arrested and charged with aggravated burglary and assault. Nashville police say the manager made a key card to gain access to the hotel room, came in about 5 in the morning on March 30th. The guest from Texas named Peter Brennan told police he woke up to find Neil sucking on his toes.
I'd find that unnerving.
Well,
You
why,
think?
Why didn't the guy have the second latch?
Oh, I don't know.
You know,
Why didn't the guy kick him in the face?
Well, he kind of liked it.
You know,
for
the
a while,
worst
then he
thing, too,
realized-
Joe, is he was right next to the ice machine
Yeah.
in the hotel room. You
Brennan
find
said
that
he-
unnerving, don't you?
I don't. I try to get a room not near the ice machine.
Brennan said he jumped up screaming. According to Nashville's News Channel 5, Brennan said he confronted Neil as he recognized him as one of the hotel employees who had entered his room the previous day to help fix his TV. He said, I could see he was wearing a uniform. He still had his name tag on. He was talking to me, but not giving me any substantial answers. Neil admitted to police entering the guest's room, but claimed it was because he had smelled smoke, wanted to check on the guest. However,
Maybe the guy's
authorities-
toes were on fire.
However, the authorities noted Neil had not told security about the apparent smell of smoke, and there were no other complaints about a smoke smell. The manager was arrested at his home in Lebanon, Tennessee. He's jailed on $27,000 bond, according to WKRN.
I don't even want to guess what Freudian problem that might indicate.
Yeah, toes just, out there for walking.
They're pretty
hold you up.
bad. They're pretty bad.
They're just to hold you up.
Yeah.
And speaking
We
of
have
Nashville,
a granddaughter who's quite a character, and she has told people that I've made my money in life by charging people to see my feet. She said that I display my feet and that people pay to
Like
see
a
them.
webcam situation.
Yeah.
how much do you get for that, Joe? I'm just curious.
Is that extra?
I don't know what she said people or what I charge, but I think it was $1.
Oh, my Lord.
And I've been quite successful at it.
Boy, I'm gonna.
Yep.
I think we need to take and run with that one.
Yeah.
That's actually the secret of the mayor's success.
Well, he's got the bad
That was
feet.
timing.
I got bad feet. John, thank you.
Okay, sure.
That was fantastic. Where are we here? Oh, yeah.
I'll just do that.
Aim High Construction back with us for the spring and summer on Garage Logic and ready to book your spring and summer construction project. The owner, Chris Miller, not only a longtime GLer, but he's also a veteran, and he and his crews, boy, they do a good job on all things related to construction. That's both residential and commercial. And really, they can do it all. Roofing, siding, decks, interiors, kitchens, bathrooms, the downstairs, upstairs, concrete, a garage. Do I need to go on? Shops, garages, whatever you need. They do amazing work. Get in touch with Chris at aimhighconstructionmn.com as soon as you possibly can. Get that bid ball rolling and get your project on the schedule. They're very, very busy, but they always put us GLers first. And remember, when you go with Aim High Construction, you're going with the very best. Get in touch with Chris today. aimhighconstructionmn.com.
Fogarty?
That was Fogarty, yep.
Okay.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and he feels fine. Joe Souchere.
Only because they come to us.
Yes, sir.
All the way from Fernandina, the Villages, Florida, from the Traveling Lymans. On this day,
Joe, today is May 9th.
in 1887, the Faribault Furniture Factory burned. Built in 1856, the factory was the first in the state to manufacture items for wholesale trade.
I wonder where it was.
I'm wondering why Faribault gets so many notices in this day in history.
Because Faribault's a great city. And people from there are amazing.
On this day in 1918, Orville Freeman was born in Minneapolis. He served as the state's governor from 1955 to 1961 and later U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. While governor, he responded to the 1959 strike at the Wilson & Company packing houses in Albert Lea by declaring martial law and closing the plant. On this day, in 1921, and I did not know this, although from doing this day in history, I should have remembered this. Daniel Berrigan was born in Virginia, Minnesota. An author and a radical Catholic priest, Berrigan wrote about social responsibility and played an active role in the anti-war movement during the Vietnam era. Didn't he leak the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times?
No, that was Ellsberg. Ellsberg. Yeah.
And later protested nuclear armament. His brother Philip, also a radical priest, was born October 5th, 1923. So the Berrigan brothers were from Virginia, Minnesota.
I did not know that.
Neither did I. That's why I do these. In 1998, on this day,
May 9th,
a lot of lawyers in the Twin Cities ran out and bought BMWs. The suit, State of Minnesota versus Philip Morris, was settled when the defendants, tobacco companies, agreed to pay Minnesota and Blue Cross $6.5 billion in total.
Wow.
The settlement
What's the
ended.
score on that?
Very nice.
He landed on his feet.
The settlement ended the company's chain of legal victories and turned the tide in anti-tobacco efforts throughout the nation. And finally,
I have a quick question on that. Where did the vast majority of that, outside of lawyers, where did the rest of that money go to?
well, it went to the state, but
Right.
you wouldn't know it. It got
That's what I'm saying.
Swallowed up.
Okay.
And, supposed to be used for anti-tobacco
Programs and whatnot,
advertising.
yeah.
And on this day in 2001,
May 9th.
the Dalai Lama Tenzin Gyatso, head of state and spiritual leader of the Tibetan community worldwide, visited the Twin Cities and shared his message of compassion, tolerance, kindness, and peace. Now, is this the same Dalai Lama who was in the news recently for some
I think the one and
sexual
only.
impropriety?
I think the one and only.
Kissed the boy. Yeah. Kissed
The
the boy.
Dalai Lama of common sense.
That's right.
Joe
Gross.
Souchere.
So I says to the Lama,
Big
I says, hey, how about something, for the effort? And he said, on your deathbed, you'll have total consciousness, which is nice.
So I got that.
So I got that going for
Was
me.
he a big hitter?
Long,
Yeah.
flowing robes.
The
Flowing
I know
robes.
you were interested. The Faribault Furniture Factory was right on the river back in the 1800s.
Oh, that makes sense. Everything was built on the river.
Why did
wasn't it, in
Faribault
those
get
days?
so much attention in this day in
Joe,
history?
we're an important cog in the Minnesota wheel.
And it was there early, right? Probably
yeah.
that had
Well,
something
that
to do with it.
furniture factory was built in 1856.
One more addendum to today in history: the Berrigans moved to New York when he was 5.
Oh,
so
and
were
Virginia
here.
doesn't count.
yeah, just tell he was
Boy, we love to claim anybody, though, don't we?
We do, especially in this day in history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
So
Jessica
it's
Lange.
unlikely there's a plaque or anything in Virginia
yeah, it's
commemorating their birth there. Right. Thank you, GL'ers.
You know, you can get a good burger, John told me there.
In Virginia?
Yeah.
No, Buffalo.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, no, that ain't me. I'm
Mill,
from Buffalo.
Mill Creek Inn. It's wonderful.
I don't know the nickname to the Virginia high school team.
Aren't they the
Thief River's the Prowlers,
Hold on, Virginia?
which I think is a great
I'm going to
name.
find out while Rook closes this out.
Virginia. What was Virginia? Something to do with mining?
Rook, Pod MN, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to close out the show here, don't we?
Blue Devils.
The Blue
The
Devils?
Blue Devils.
I wouldn't have got that, wouldn't I? Pride myself on nicknames. Hey, Pod MN on your smartphone is your library for all sorts of podcasts that may or may not interest you. Maybe you don't want to find a new one. If you do, go to Pod MN on your smartphone. Don't forget, please don't forget to go to YouTube and subscribe to Garage Logic because we do have some great videos that will entertain you as well. And if that's not enough, go to garagelogic.com, sign up for the town council, and you will get a Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Store's $10 gift card.
Uh-oh. Fact base. That was Virginia, Oregon.
Rewind the
It is that time once again that we pick up that phone and we make that call to our guy. Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, is with us once again here in Garage Logic, and now is the time for you to do the same. So do not delay. Pick up the phone and dial 952-925-5608. That number once again is 952-925-5608. You call that number, you get Josh, and you'll always get straight talk. You're never going to get sugar-coated advice. And Josh is on the line with us once again here in Garage Logic. And Josh, boy, Janet Yellen says there's going to be chaos in the street unless, of course, we raise the debt ceiling.
How do you like that? Chaos in the street. The Republicans
won't raise the debt ceiling without, as she said, draconian spending cuts. Well, I don't think the Republicans are looking to do draconian spending cuts, just want to reduce spending to where it was a year ago. And one of the cuts that they want to do is pull back money that wasn't spent on COVID. Money that was allocated to be spent on COVID wasn't spent. I think that's a great idea. I think there are a few other good ideas floating around to reduce spending. One of those ideas might be getting rid of the Department of Education. Since its founding years ago, can't say that much has improved in the way of education, maybe gone the opposite. But that's just a personal opinion, not an investment opinion, and I should probably just stick with investments. But if the debt ceiling is not reached, I don't think there's going to be chaos in the streets, but there will be some delays in people getting some money. Might be that if you are a Social Security recipient, it might be your Social Security check might not hit your bank account on time. It might be delayed a few weeks. Okay, that could happen, but there still is plenty of money coming into the government to pay the bills. But I would see that spending could be cut, and many of the programs that have been initiated, maybe they're not doing what they should be. So there's plenty of ways to reduce the debt. Now, of course, somebody could point back to the Federal Reserve's moves of raising interest rates, and the reason those interest rates has cost a little bit of money. I'm not going to go there today. You do know my feelings that the Fed has gone overboard in their rate moves, and that has created some other problems that I'm not sure that the Fed was really thinking about at the time. But today's market has been focused on a few things. One, the debt ceiling, what the president and leaders of Congress are going to start with their negotiations today. Second, we do have Fed speak. And of course, the Fed governors are going to continue their mantra, higher for longer, and we're data dependent. But the data that the Fed is looking at, I don't believe is in real time. I think it's several months old. Another thing that's going to has the potential to impact the market, and this would be, again, leaning back to the Fed, is the CPI and PPI reports that come out tomorrow and Thursday. I keep looking not so much at the overall forest, looking at some of the trees within the forest. And while numerous market strategists are fretting about how high the stock market is and it should be trading much lower, et cetera, if I look at many of the companies that I and my clients own and companies that we don't own but have continued to do well, I focus primarily on companies involved in the internet, leisure-related businesses, China-related businesses without necessarily being in China, and real assets such as real estate, and do some short-term trading. Part of the asset allocation is keeping up to 30% in cash, both for safety and to take advantage of the inevitable pullbacks that happen in the market. If I look at certain industries that maybe shouldn't be going up right now, but are, take a look at some of the industrials, whether it's Eaton, General Electric, Honeywell, among others. In this type of market, they should not be going up, but they are. Boeing today had a nice move up on the backs of a huge order from Ryanair. Take a look at travel and leisure. Well, there's an area that I do cover. A lot of the travel and leisure stocks have been doing exceedingly well, whether it's Marriott Vacation Properties. I'm not an airline investor, but airlines have done well. And my casinos, well, they have been doing well. And one of them, Wynn Resorts, reports tonight after the close, and I think that could follow on with Las Vegas Sands report, MGM's report, and Caesars report, and produce, longer term, some pretty good results. I think analysts will be looking at their Macau business. Other travel and leisure stocks have done well. Bookings and Expedia, as travel has expanded. Another company in that group, Airbnb, reports tonight. That, to me, always has the possibility or potential of doing well on a longer term basis. And I probably have looked at that several times without making an investment. endorsement in that. But man, that to me has the potential to be another potential Priceline or bookings, now bookings.com. And then there's the leadership group is still in technology. Favorites, Apple has just killed it. Indeed, at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting this past weekend, Warren Buffett, when asked about Apple, said it is better than any business that Berkshire owns. Now, that's a little bit of a pleasant endorsement. I still have my $250 price target on Apple. More coming up this week.
Very good, Mr. Money Talk. You heard him, GLers. Now's the time for you to pick up the phone and make the call for that free 48-minute financial consultation by doing just what I did. Pick up that phone and dial 952-925-5608, where you're always going to get straight talk and never sugar-coated advice. Josh, once again, thank you so much for the time in the chat. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.
Look forward to it, Chris.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions are Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice.
Chris Reavers is a paid endorser.